Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you, Professor Carlos Nobre, for being with us today. We will be speaking Portuguese, considering we have the simultaneous interpretation and we have all the scholars and also uh, a big team from Brazil. So we will be presenting in Portuguese. Walter already introduced Professor Carlos Nobre. I don't have much to add. He's one of the main researchers and a main advocate for preservation and sustainable development of the Amazon. So, Professor, we would like to start this chat. We will be doing this in a very informal fashion. And you can turn on your camera if possible, please. Are you there, Professor? I am here. But it looks like I am not authorized to turn on my camera. You have to allow me. Lothar, can you check? Lothar, can you check? Now, there we go. It's working now. So the idea is to have this conversation. We would like to, with something broader, we would like to hear from your experience and all of these years of research. Which are the main challenges today for science in the Amazon, both for preservation as well as for the sustainable development of the Brazilian Amazon and the whole Amazon, all the countries that have a piece of the Amazon? Thank you very much. Fatima, I would say I have to speak Portuguese, right? I think it would be better if we speak Portuguese, yes. I believe that the challenges, the science challenges to save the Amazon are huge. We have been developing for many, many decades a science that has shown the risk in which we have placed the Amazon. The Amazon is at the brink of the tipping point, of the point of no return, of becoming a degraded open sky savanna, totally degraded environment. And this was a science advancement for many decades. I was the first scientist in 1990 with colleagues in the Maryland University. We produced the first scientific article back there in the past that said if deforestation would expand and would be too huge, the whole south of the Amazon would become this degraded savanna. But this was, at the time, that was a future projection. 30 years later, with lots of research, especially with the LDA experiment, a large-scale research that started in January of 1999. It had over 25 measuring points, analyzing the forest interaction with the atmosphere, degraded pastures. And so the LBA experiment concluded that for sure the whole south of the Amazon is very close to the point of no return. So this is what the science has already shown us. And also with the risks of the biodiversity, the risks of change in the whole climate of the South America, the Amazon would export a huge amount of water vapor to the whole south of the Amazon, to the Andes. All of that is at a risk. So this is what the science has already shown us, but we need to move forward looking for solutions. I believe this is still the main challenge that we have here. Maybe this is more applied science in terms of looking for solutions to avoid that point of no return. This is a huge challenge already. And what do you think would be, or if you can list, which would be the science areas that would need more incentives today exactly to be able to focus on that discussion, to avoid that tipping point and whatever is important for the region? Yes, as I mentioned, it has to do with the applied science. I know that the basic science has to move forward to really monitor and to monitor really well where we can be very close to that point of no return. But we do need a number of investments in nature-based solutions. And here we have two areas. We have to zero out degradation and deforestation and fire. But fortunately, in 2023, we start having good news for the first time in 10 years. Deforestation is quickly coming down 55% between January and the mid of November. Very important. All the Amazon countries, all the Amazon countries, deforestation came down. Colombia, Brazil, Bolivia, Ecuador, Peru. So this is a very good piece of data. And the Amazon countries committed themselves, almost all of them, to zero out deforestation up to 2030. And this is a good sign. But in addition to zeroing the deforestation and fire and degradation, to really save the Amazon, we need two things. First, to create one of the largest world projects of forest restoration. So we, in those deforested areas, we do not have to have a monoculture of exotic plants. We need to have the native species from the Amazon reforested and regenerated. We had an excellent news at COP28. The Brazilian administration launched a project that is called Restoration Arc. 24 million hectares in the whole south of the Amazon will receive huge financings, around $20 billion between now and 2050, to restore this huge area. Therefore, we will be able to reduce a lot this point of no return. So what do we need? We need to move forward with applied science in order to provide that scale to forest restoration. So it has to do with forest engineering, how to generate a number of seedlings, how to guarantee that the fire is not going to take over these regenerated forests. So we do need to have a lot of science, applied science. And another aspect of nature-based solutions is that we really need the scale for what we call the new social bioeconomy, to have healthy forests and the rivers flowing. And we need to show in large scale that the great potential, the social economic potential that will improve the Amazon countries and also the Amazon society is an economy based in the biodiversity products, products from the Amazon. And this is a huge biodiversity cooperative that have that type of forest products. They are already reaching people from the middle class. And this is the model, not to remove the forest to have the livestock or soybean or mining, which is illegal, and it is killing the Amazon rivers. So these are the two main challenges that the science has to tackle: a huge forest restoration, especially in the most deforested areas in the south of the Amazon, from the Atlantic, Bolivia, and what I call the arc of restoration from 400 to 1300 meter, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia. This is the area with the largest biodiversity in the planet. Amazon has the largest biodiversity, and in the Amazon, that region also, with a lot of deforestation, especially with oil exploration and also illegal mining, we have to restore the forest there. And also a lot of applied science of how to generate dozens and dozens of products coming from biodiversity, to gain scale, to create markets. These are major challenges that science has to tackle right now. We already have a question from one of the participants. Her her name is Priscilla, and she's asking us which are the parameters that are used to determine the point of no return. Maybe this is a very long answer, but if you can answer it, with some specific topics, yes. Uh, you know, the topics that we use to determine the point of no return are many. We have the climate envelope that involves the forest. Forest has a lot of rain, 2.22 to 2.3 meters in the average for the Amazon. In the west of the Amazon, over 3 meters, close to the Andes. A very short dry season, 3 to 4 months at the most. And we do have rain in the dry season. The forest maintains a lower temperature. The canopy of the forest maintains 30 degrees, 75% of the solar energy. The balance of radiation is used for evaporation and transpiration and not to heat up the air. So the forest absorbs a lot of CO2. Photosynthesis is very effective. So the forest is very dense. When there is a lightning, it cannot set the forest on fire because only 4% of the solar energy reaches the soil. The soil is very humid, and this has to do with millions and millions of evolution of the forest. So what is happening now is that the dry season throughout the south of the Amazon from 79 up to now is already 4 to 5 weeks longer. It's becoming longer, a week per decade. So when the dry season reaches 5 to 6 months, and if it continues going at the space, it will be in 3 decades. You won't be able to maintain the forest with a dry season of 5 to 6 months. This is the climatic envelope of the tropical savanna. In the south is Cerrado, and in the north is the large savanna. So if we go into that direction, the forest will be degraded and will become a degraded savanna, and it will lose a huge amount of carbon. And calculations show that in 30 to 50-year time, the forest will be placing 250 billion tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. So it's going to be impossible to maintain the Paris Agreement, where the temperature cannot go over 1.5 degree globally. This is very important. But along with that, what can we see here? Mortality of the trees with a humid climate from Bolivia up to the Atlantic, and the south of state of Pará and the north of the state of Mato Grosso. Well, recent studies have shown that there the forest has already become source of carbon. Globally speaking, all forests remove 1/3 of all CO2 that we throw to the atmosphere. This is a wonderful service. Is the ecosystem of the forests. Otherwise, the temperature here would be already over 2 degrees. The Amazon forest in the 90s would remove over 2 billion tons. Now this number has gone down. And what I said, the southeast the Amazon, the forest is already a source of carbon. These are all the things that we look at. So if we have a longer dry season, if the trees keep dying, and if the forest becomes a source of carbon, there we go. We will be crossing the point of no return. And again, there is no way back. If we go towards the point of no return in 30 to 50 years, the whole system will be degraded. Well, this is not a good perspective, so we do have to be concerned. A final question that we would like to ask you, and it has to do with Dimension Science's mission, which is how to promote more diversity in science. And also, we look at science and all the important topics in the Amazon, and how can we increase the diversity of researchers and underrepresented groups in science and in the Amazon, considering all the populations that we have in the Amazon. How can we increase the participation of the representatives of all populations in the Amazon? I would like to hear you on that. that is a great challenge, and we have to overcome it. A number of us here in Brazil and already having partners in Colombia and in Peru, we would like to create the Amazon Technology Institute, and we are working on a feasibility study. We'll be finishing that in the next few months. And we are developing and we're working with indigenous people and local population. We have to respect that the Indians have lived in the Amazon for 12,000 years. They have used 2,000 products, the 250 fruits. They were very well fed and they are very healthy. And we have thrown all that learning away. And the populations that came more recently, the Afro descendants, the ones that lived by the rivers, they maintain the forest, and we have a lot to learn. So the idea of the Amazon Tech Institute is to have an area where we can bring together our science to the knowledge of the indigenous people and local communities. Is a huge challenge, but I think we have to overcome it. We have to acknowledge the knowledge of all the people, and also by creating this institute. And now we are also finally are talking about creating Indian universities in the Amazon. We have to bring indigenous people that want to benefit from our science. They want to learn from us, but we have a lot to learn from their science. And there's something very interesting with indigenous people. That science from the indigenous people was almost all developed by women. They were the scientists. Just a piece of data here. We have over 1,300 varieties of cocoa, over 700 varieties of manioc. Indigenous people have domesticated over 50 plants, different typical plants from the Amazon. Cocoa included. So all of that is Indian science that we have to respect and learn from. It's important to acknowledge, and we do want to create this Amazon Tech Institute. It's a pan-Amazonic, not only in one country, so that we can bring in indigenous people, young Indians from all the areas, so that they can learn and have an university degree in a way that we would have a number of students a year graduating, and some of them from the Amazon, but we also could bring in young people and scientists from all over the world. Everyone loves the Amazon and everyone wants to save the Amazon, but especially the Amazon populations, the local ones and urban populations. And these thousands of people a year graduating from this institute will then develop this sustainable model for the Amazon, this new biosocial economics. This is the idea that we need to implement in the Amazon very quickly, and we do need a lot of support, especially from the richer countries for this initial calculation for this Institute of the Amazon. The first number that we got is $1 billion to build it. We need a lot of support from the rich countries so that, in fact, we can bring in our science to combine that with the knowledge of local populations and indigenous people's knowledge, and then have a very good population, well-trained to save our Amazon. I think now that you believe you have another commitment. Yes, there is a question here about the countries, really about the political will to work on this, but maybe we can discuss that later, because I believe now you have another engagement. I rather be a little bit late because this is a significant question. For the first time in history,
The first time in history I was at COP, and this was very much discussed. Some banks have just launched a big financing model for this new economy. Several Amazonic countries, Brazil, for instance, is trying to provide finance and the methods for this new socio-bioeconomy. It's the first time in history. So 2023 is the year when we are finally reducing deforestation, degradation, and crime in the Amazon. For the first time, Amazonic countries, most of them, and the international financial world, and the international scientific world, being more and more interested in contributing for us to find sustainable solutions for the Amazon. So I think 2023 is a historical year that can help us save the Amazon. And I'll end saying that we have an obligation to save the Amazon, to save all Amazonic peoples, because all of us, well, that's the Amazon that we all want. I'd like to thank you very much, your participation. It's been excellent. And it was excellent that you ended with a message of optimism, because everyone has been very pessimistic. So at least now we know that we are moving in the right direction. And I would like to thank you. And hopefully you'll come back sometime. Thank you. Bye.